short story by Paul McCann, Dennis and the Secret Door. Every day Dennis would leave school to have lunch at his grandmother's house. He loved going there because there was so much to explore on the way to and from his school. There was the youth club's equipment room inside an old tin shed, where the back door was never locked, and Dennis would sometimes sneak inside to rummage through some of the boxes that were in there. And near the tin shed there was a scrap metal yard, where he loved to scale up the mountain of wrecked cars. He knew his way over and through every single car in the scrapyard heap, and when he reached the summit, he felt like he was king of the mountain for a while. And then he would walk along the path of stepping stones along Rosebank River until he came to the mill dam, where two white swans had their nest in the long grass on the side of the dam. And finally, there were some old empty houses near his grandmother's street. People had said that the houses were hit with incendiary devices in the war, and the people who lived there left, and they never returned. One day after Dennis had his lunch, he made his way back to school. But on the way, he went to explore the ruins of a large house that had been abandoned. He scrambled some of the rubble away from the front door, and then he went inside the old house. There was a rusty paint tin on the floor of a room that would have been a kitchen at one time. So Dennis upturned the paint tin and he sat down on it and tried to imagine the kind of people who would have lived in the house and what kind of strange things might have happened there. Sunlight shone through the hole in a roof, and it reflected back through an old mirror that hung on a wall in the hallway opposite where Dennis sat. So he stood up and wandered over to the mirror. The mirror was covered in dust. So he brushed some of it away with the cuff of his jumper, and he looked into the mirror and saw in the reflection an old door that was there opposite. It had been overgrown with ivy. So Dennis turned around and started to pull away some of the vines and the leaves until he found a door handle. As he turned the door handle, the door opened up and he walked through. And on the other side of the door, he was standing in the parlour of a beautiful old home. He heard some voices, and some people were coming, so he hid behind a chair. A family of 4 young children were being taken by their parents to school. They all left through the front door, and Dennis got out from behind the chair and looked out the window, and he saw them walking down a path that was lined with beautiful flowers. Dennis noticed a newspaper on the table with the date March 16th, 1945. And then he realized that somehow he had gone back in time, almost 50 years. Dennis walked out the front door into the street, and he noticed that it was the very same road that went to his school. There was a crowd of people coming along the footpath, so Dennis went back inside the house again, and then he went through the door where he had come in. He discovered that once again he was back inside of the ruins of the old house, where he had been originally. Started to rain, and the rain fell through the hole in the roof. So Dennis ran off to school before he got a soaking. And after school that day, Dennis couldn't wait to tell his parents all about what he had seen and where he had been and the secret door that he had found. So he rushed all the way home after school, and out of breath he tried to speak to his parents about the ruins and how he had found a secret door and how he went back in time. But his parents just half listened to him, and they were reluctant to believe him. They even said that he had a wonderful imagination. So right after dinner, Dennis went to his bedroom and sat in silence, thinking all about the events of that day, and he decided that he would go back again to the ruins in the morning. And in the morning, Dennis got up early and he made his way after breakfast to the ruins of the old house. And once again, he sat inside, imagining the kind of people that would have been there before. Then he looked at the old mysterious door. And this time, he got up and he opened the door and he walked through. But this time, he wasn't standing in the parlour of a beautiful home. He was standing in the ruins that had been charred by a fire, and everything had been burned. So he went out the door to the street, and he ran all the way to the school that he went to. But he could see that the school children were wearing strange uniforms. They were old-fashioned, and he hid out of sight, and he made his way into an empty classroom where he saw a newspaper on the desk. And he glanced at the front page, and the date of the publication was the 18th of March, 1945, which was 2 days later than when he had first been there before, in that time and that place, in the house. And there was an article on the front page of the newspaper that told the sad story of a family of 4 children and their parents who were all killed in a fire as they slept. The story described how a faulty gas heater had exploded, setting the home ablaze. The article also had a picture of the house, and it was the very same house as the one Dennis had been exploring. Immediately, Dennis ran out of the school and back to the home's ruins and through the door again, and once again he ran all the way to his school. And after school, he couldn't wait to get home to tell his parents all about the fire and the family who had been killed. And once again, his parents never listened to Dennis. They said it was just another one of the stories that Dennis always told. They just humoured him and said what a wonderful storyteller he was. So now after Dennis had his dinner, he went to bed with the thoughts of returning to the ruins again the next day. The next day, after breakfast, he went to the ruins before school. When he went through the door this time, he was standing in the parlour of a beautiful home. He heard voices coming from behind the door in the hallway, and so once again he hid behind the chair, and then he saw them come into the room. He watched them getting ready for school. He could see how happy they all were as a family. He made sure that they couldn't see him. And once again they all walked out the front door. And Dennis came out from behind the chair, and on the table again Dennis saw a newspaper, and the date of the newspaper was the 17th of March 1945. So Dennis knew that this was the night that the house would burn down. He looked around the house until the night came, and then he looked around for the gas heater. He turned off the gas and removed the heater, and he took it through the secret door, and on the other side of the door he discovered that he was standing inside the kitchen of a beautiful home. And on the kitchen table was another newspaper dated March 17th, 1995. He carried the heater all the way to the scrapyard, where he tossed it on a pile of a scrap before climbing up the mountain of wrecked cars to the top. As Dennis grew later in his life, he was a man, and he married Edna, one of the girls who lived in that beautiful house. Dennis and Edna were married at 6:45 on the morning of the 17th of March at the Catholic church in the village. All the wedding people were gathered at the reception, where Dennis stood behind a microphone. And he had planned to tell the guests all about the secret door that he found as a boy, and how he had saved Edna and her family. As he stood there behind the microphone looking at the wedding guests, he thought, nah, better not. No one would believe me, he thought. So Dennis just told a few stories about how he met Edna and the kind of life that they had planned to be together. As the years went on, Dennis and Edna had 4 beautiful children. One of the boys was called Laurie, and he told stories about how he could catch dreams in a secret box. No one ever believed Laurie, except for Dennis, his dad, who loved to hear Laurie's adventures. The end.